Welcome back to the Golf Intervention Podcast. We're so glad you're tuning in with us this evening. We've got a robust conversation full of golf performance excitement. I mean, that sounded pretty snazzy there, Rob, didn't it?
Sounds like a show title to me.
Yeah, we're trying to draw you in, listener, with our excitement about the topics we're going to discuss. But we are going to start off with a topic I think super exciting. Has iron fitting been revolutionized and no one's talking about it? So that's going to be a topic tonight. We're going to take you through a level 1, 2, 3 player discussion on playing from the rough, which is a question from one of my students and avid listener to the show. So this is for her. She'll know who she is when she hears it. And then we'll do lessons from our lessons, which is kind of a fun way that we share some insights of things that we see from our lesson tee that may help you, I should say, the listener, with your golf game. So how you doing this evening, Rob Fales? You doing well?
We're doing great. Yeah. Had a good full day and did a little golf school with Hunter today. So it was fun. Yeah, the term golf school, it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I'll keep thinking of alternative terms,
but
that's what we're going with.
It's an immersive experience, we'll say. That's what it is.
There we go. Love
just
it.
wanted to say that. So these are the days where you could teach 10 straight hours and not even break a sweat.
100%.
I had the quarter zip on all day. It's been fall weather in Central Virginia, and I am very excited about this time of year because it's my favorite time of year. Other than the ragweed, that kills me. That's why we didn't record the other night because, allergies were killing me. I had no voice. But other than that, it's a great time of year. So we are going to have a discussion. I kind of teased it at the beginning about, has iron fitting been revolutionized and no one's discussing it? I think kind of. Now, why is no one discussing it? I think a couple reasons. Number one, who cares? It's not exciting. I mean, it is a performance thing, but at the end of the day, iron fitting isn't the most exciting topic to talk about in golf. Mm-hmm. But I will say, as someone who club fits a lot, and I, with my job, and I mentioned it on here before, I teach a lot and I club fit a lot, like an inordinate amount, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
So
100%.
Titleist has come out with their new irons, which I think I wrote at least a Substack about their new irons, and Ping has some new irons. And Callaway this year, when they brought out the Elite iron fitting set, redid their whole fitting configuration. And what we're getting from those three companies is that the lofts are very customizable and adjustable for the fitting process and obviously for the ordering process. Well, okay, Eric, why does that matter, right? Well, here's why it matters. Because when you're fitting somebody, you're fitting them to an iron that performs at a certain way to create an optimal shot, right? And that optimal shot has a certain height to it, has a certain, what we call land angle. It's like the angle that it's coming out of the air on into the green. And then the spin obviously is part of that. So when you're fitting people based on their club speed, you're trying to hit certain optimal heights. Do you do much fitting, Rob?
Not really that much.
So Ping for a few years has had what they call the power spec and the retro. They brought the retro spec out, and we've had fitting heads with that. So power spec is like stronger lofts, and then retro spec is like a combination of weaker lofts. And then they have their standard heads. And so you could fit with those and adjust. But Titleist, right on the hosel now, has this fitting set that's unbelievable for eye. If you haven't checked it out yet, those of you that fit, you've got to check it out and see it, because you've got an upright, a standard, and a flat setting. And then you've got all the combinations of being able to go up and down in the lie angle and up and down in the loft. And it's insane. And so they also came out with what they call the 250, the T250 Star, which has weaker lofts to start with. And it's almost like a retro spec,
That's pretty cool.
So I'm fitting lofts. We do this with drivers forever, right? Because you're trying to get this peak height to optimize your ball flight. I've been fitting lofts, customizing. I will tell you, for a few of my students that really struggle either hitting the ball too high or they've hit the ball too low, I can get them in the right iron for their for their, whatever they do kind of naturally, right? Without having to adjust. Right. So you see this with students, Robbie, like I've got a 7-iron in my hand and the peak height, like I've got decent speed. I swing it at 70 miles an hour, but the peak height of the shot is 46 feet.
Yeah.
Right. For whatever reason, And so we as instructors are trying to, the only real way that we influence that is by getting the dynamic loft up. Well, how easy is it to change someone's dynamic loft at impact?
Not super easy.
Let's say one of the harder things we do, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to separate dynamic loft from face angle. Okay. So let's go.
Attack.
Yeah. I mean, so as you're trying to parse that out, think about it this way. Dynamic loft is the loft of the club at impact on the vertical side of the club face, right? That's loft. And then face angle, which we talk about and everybody thinks about club face, is the horizontal measurement, right? They both have huge influence on where the ball goes. And so for someone that delivers the club with too little dynamic loft, that is a really hard thing to change, in my opinion, right? Unless you can move the low point around in some functional way, which again, for a lot of people actually isn't that easy. So what do we end up doing? We end up getting them weaker shafts. Like we're trying to get them like these soft, kicky shafts that hit the ball up in the air.
Yeah, exactly.
And with soft and kicky comes more dispersion typically, right? So now all of a sudden I can take that person and just like fit them to weaker lofts and they're hitting the ball so much better. I mean, that's awesome. It's great. So one player in particular who I've worked with for 15 years on this game, just always hit it low. Like it wasn't terribly low, but just always low. We've always worked on it. Yeah. And I fit him in 2 degrees weaker in I think it was a Callaway Elite. And oh my gosh, it's changed everything he's gone from 56 peak height to 72 peak height on 7-iron.
That's crazy how much that changes based off 2 degrees.
And by the way, his carry distance has gone up 15 yards.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. So people don't always think about that.
Makes sense.
Right? They're like, oh, if I hit it lower, I'll hit it further. No, it doesn't work that way. There's a peak height that's optimal.
Yes.
So now he can play a shaft that's the right stiffness, loft on the club, and the club that's right. Like, like this wasn't a person that really needed a huge game improvement club. He just hit the ball a little low. Right. So
totally. And with those really high MOI, basically high forgiveness club heads, a lot of times they put the mass really low and back, which tends to help launch it up. And then they counteract that by saying, okay, we're going to strengthen the lofts. Well, plenty of people who fit into that club, they don't have enough speed anyway, right? And their peak height's going to be too low anyway. So like, why are we strengthening the lofts on those clubs? Like, let's keep the lofts standard for a lot. And then you'll get on a probably lower proportion of golfers who have enough speed with that club head. And then we can bring the loft down. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I think I want to say revolutionary to be able to fit the loft that way. So kudos to the companies that have done that. I mean, I think actually TaylorMade, I don't fit with TaylorMade a ton. I have to be honest. They have an adjustable sleeve kind of configuration that I think you can change the loft a little bit on. But Titleist, that fitting set is outrageous. The amount of options that you have. And the T series irons that they just came out with like a month ago are just unbelievably good. So if you haven't tried them, you're thinking about new irons, go to a good club fitter, someone who knows what they're doing, and definitely test out those new T series Titleist because they are just outrageously good. And with all the customizable options, there's really something for everybody. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome stuff. So hopefully that wasn't too nerdy of a discussion. I was trying to think of why isn't this a bigger discussion in the world of like, you and I kind of understand with the general population of golfers, they're not 100% in tune to lofts of their irons or whatever. It's kind of a nerdy topic. But like in our world, like in our world of discussions with other teachers or forums or I haven't heard any, it's like zero discussion. So maybe I'll start, maybe this will be the start of that discussion.
There you go.
There you go. So I had a question for one of my students about playing from the rough. Now she is a avid listener, loves the show. So we appreciate her enthusiastic support because she definitely shares with all her friends that they need to listen to this show. And she's a beginner golfer, essentially. She's learning quickly, but
Nice.
had a question about playing out of the rough.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this time of year, the rough is just brutal in Central Virginia for
It
sure.
can be, yeah,
Brutal. Because
for sure.
coming out of the summer, the Bermuda is so healthy and we get a little bit of rain, a little bit. Now temperature's perfect and it is just brutal. And on our James River course, we're prepping for our final hosting of one of the Champions Tour playoffs events. And so the rough just gets really healthy this time of year. And it's really hard to play out of. So she said, "Can you do an episode on playing from the rough?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally can do that." So this is a pretty complex. It's almost like you could.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's some complexity to playing from the rough because there's some decision points, right? You almost need a matrix. Like you could almost write down what we're saying in a matrix or a decision tree. Because some of it is based on clubhead speed and skill.
Oh,
and those can be separate or the same. They generally go
Agreed.
together. And then obviously the type of grass, how thick and deep the grass is, how the ball's sitting in it, what shot you're trying to play. Is it, what you have to go over, what you don't have to go over, how high you need to hit the shot, like what the situation is. So there's a lot of decision points when talking about playing from the rough. We could probably do a series on playing from the rough, to be honest, but
legitimately we could.
Ain't nobody listening to that, brother. So we got to.
Oh, come on! You're not giving us enough.
Could you imagine the person that's like, "Honey, we're driving to the shore this weekend for a little getaway. Can we listen to this 2-hour episode on playing from the rough?" Can you imagine how well that would go over? Probably not super well.
Yeah, probably not great. Yeah.
But I think we can summarize and give them some jumping off points to discuss in ways that they can explore. So if you, Rob, like in your mind, how are you sorting this question out? Just general impressions of the question. How are you sorting through it right now?
For sure. Yeah. So it always starts with the read, right? So a lot of playing in the rough is predicting how that lie club ball interaction is gonna work out, right? Typically, I will break it down into kind of like A, B, C, and then for level 3, 4 golfers, maybe a D, right? So you have 4 real different types of lies. A lies might as well be in the fairway, right? So no change. You're not doing anything different. That's a prediction you're making. You might say, all right, I feel like this is going to come out the exact same as it would off the fairway. And you make impact and it comes out way faster and higher and no spin than you think. Sometimes it comes out way lower, dead, no spin. And again, it's just the difference in your prediction. So is it an A lie, meaning like no adjustment? Is it a B lie, which would be the ball sitting up? So these are going to be typically your flyers, right? Or ones where you could actually hit it high on the face if the arc height is a little too low. And again, that's more of a skill of perceiving where the ball is in space and matching where the bottom of your swing is to that. There's a C lie, which is sitting down. All right. So typically the ball is going to come out slower. And there's a element with this as far as predicting how much stuff you have underneath the golf ball. That's going to determine, again, the arc height and a little bit of kind of your loft affordances, like how much loft can you actually hit out of this lie. And then you have D lies, which are going to be fescue, buried, just situations where you literally just have to get it out by any means necessary. There's been some crazy D lies where I've seen where it's fescue and the grass is growing into the grain. And as soon as the club touches the grass, it just catches it like crazy and all the momentum stops and you advance the ball about a foot, right? So these are the types of lies that are really they're penalties. If you think about it, like if you go and map out a golf course and try to figure out like, hey, where can I hit it? Where can't I hit it? Even though they're not penalties by the rules of golf per se, because you can find your ball in these areas, probably a good idea to go ahead and treat that as a penalty when you're targeting. So you have these 4 main different types of lies, A, B, C, D. And then you have, like you said, the shot that you have. Are we greenside? Is this a short iron approach, mid to long iron approach? Are we hitting it into a par 5, right? Is this our second shot on a par 5? Where are we? And then probably backing up even before that, who are you as a golfer? Are you a level 1 golfer, level 2, level 3, or level 4 tour pro? All of these factors are going to play into ultimately what you're going to do. But understand that regardless, every line in the rough is going to affect 3 things. It's going to affect the ball speed, it's going to affect the launch, and it's going to affect the spin. And that's it. That's what you need to understand. Now, once you get into D lies and sometimes C lies, it can affect the rotation of the club face about the shaft. So there's a little bit of prediction with that too, in terms of, okay, is this grass that the golf club is interacting with going to change the face rotation by the time I get to impact or not, right? And that's something that you need to work through and have a strategy for dealing with that as well. But that's a little more rare. But it's usually those 3 things: ball speed, launch, and spin. As a general rule, again, I just worked through A through D. The greater the density of material that gets between the face and the ball, the lower the launch, the lower the ball speed, the lower the spin, just as a general rule. And if you can predict that well, that's going to go into the club that you're using as well as the speed that you're using. That being said, once you've gone ahead and made your prediction as far as, hey, what club am I using, speed, what have you, depending on the shot that you have, a lot of it we'll just start with level 1 golfers. A lot of it is just the skill of managing that arc height relative to where the ball is in space. And I would say that's probably the main thing. There's plenty of times where level 1 golfer hits the ball in the rough and it's almost a little bit easier, right? Because the ball, you might have an A lie or a B lie, and the ball's kind of sitting up a little bit, right? And for those golfers who, let's say your tendency is for that arc height to be a little high or whatnot, like, it can work out great. There's also situations where level 1 golfers who maybe have an aversion to hitting the ground or don't quite get the bottom of the swing arc as low as they need to, where they get a C lie or a D lie, and it's like almost a full shot, maybe a shot and a half penalty, because it takes them 2 to get it out of that, just because the arc height never got low enough for where the ball was in space. So that'd be my main consideration for level 1. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I would say for those golfers visualizing, when you say arc height, so there's the trying to visualize in space where the hula hoop of your swing arc is going relative to the ground. And then there's also how deep that is relative to the ball, right? So higher or lower of the ball. Then there's also low point control too, right? So that which are tied together but are different as well. And so some of those, like if you're a hangback scooper, you have a hard time in the rough, right? Because your low point gets behind, and so you start catching the grass early, and that's trouble, right? Some of the people that hit well out of the rough are the over the top steeper swings, right? Like if they really come over the top and get ahead of it and to really smash down on it, they can be good out of the rough, actually get the ball out of the rough easier. So that could be one of the adjustments that you're making, actually, is that. I will say that the biggest issue I see with players, I would say on the level 1 spectrum, getting out of the rough is just controlling the arc in a way it's somewhat predictable, right? Arc height and low point. The second is speed. Like, can they just create the energy?
Have it literally enough, right,
to get the ball out? As you get into the C lie and the D lie, it gets to be really, really hard.
Really
and
tough,
so what you almost have to do is create a strategy for getting just back to the fairway. Because you may even look at that shot and go, oh, I mean, I'm hitting it towards the hole, but I've got to carry it 20 yards to get out of the rough back to, before it's in net. You might have to just go like, I'm not sure I can do that. I might have to go more sideways to the fairway.
Totally.
If you don't keep score, you may just fluff it up in the rough and play. I mean, to be honest, like just pop it up in the rough and try to play on. Because if you're not playing for score anyway. So I would say when you get in the rough, it's a conundrum. That's a big word. It's a conundrum. It's a catch-22 for a new golfer, because here's the story. I've got to be pretty precise at the bottom of the arc, but I also have to swing what feels like faster. And that
Yeah.
that loss of control when we add speed lends to less control at the bottom of the yard.
Hmm.
So it's really
For
tough.
sure.
It's just really tough. Here's the story. Don't hit it in the rough. Hit it straight. Take a golf lesson and get fit really well for your driver.
Another point I wanted to make is, and this kind of alludes to the loft fitting stuff that you're talking about with irons, is that for a given speed, there's definitely an optimal launch that's going to give you the most carry. So if you have the perception as a level one golfer, like, oh, just my longer clubs always go further. Well, if you have a C lie, I would be willing to bet that if you're level one golfer and let's say you hit your driver less than 180 yards, that a 6 iron is going to go shorter than a 7 iron in the rough and a C lie.
Yeah.
And potentially a 7 iron could go shorter than even an 8 iron. So generally speaking, again, the as you go from C to D, or you get more stuff between the face and the ball, that launch is going to come down, the spin's going to come down, the ball speed is going to down, which means that you need more launch. You need higher launch angles to get this thing to actually carry far enough, which means that you need to also be, again, when you're reading the lie, when you're figuring out how slow this thing's going to come out, there's that law of diminishing returns. What's the least amount of loft that I can play and still retain that nice launch angle? A lot of times it's going to be a 9 iron, it's going to be an 8, it's going to be something like that. 7. Once you get into 6, 5, and it gets a little bit dicey, you better be getting pretty lucky, honestly, with the lie for those to actually go further for a level one golfer.
Yeah, and I think that one of the mistakes I see with that level 1, probably level 2, maybe even level 3 golfer, probably not level 3 golfer, is they know that it's hard to hit out of this. So, okay, so I'm 150 out, and that's normally my 7 iron. Eric, do you think I should hit 6 or 5 iron here because the ball comes out, slower? And sometimes the answer is absolutely not, right? Because now it might not come out at all, right? Like it might, when it does, it might fly so low, to your point, that it's never going to carry to get there. And so you're almost better, taking more loft and just slashing at it in a way and see if you can get it to knuckle and fly.
Exactly.
Don't do it. Was that Firestone that Tiger hit that ridiculous pitching wedge? This is probably before you were old enough to remember golf, but Tiger hit, I should link this in the show. Maybe I'll try to find it, link it in the show notes. Tiger hit a pitching wedge from like 185 yards at like Firestone or one of these places from this lie in the rough where they're
from a B line, probably.
Oh, no. This thing was so far down. He swung so hard at this thing. And the announcer, I think it was David Faraday, was just, there's no chance like any human can hit that shot. And he flew it on the green to like 5 feet and made a birdie putt. It was like insane, 180 with a pitching wedge. So you almost have to just like slash it out, right? And just take the medicine. Like whether it's 150 and you should be able to hit it that far, 100 yards, like there's times you've got to read as that ball is going lower in the rough, to your point, from A to B to C to D. You've got to be adding, in my opinion, adding loft and moving it back in your stance to try to get steeper on this thing to hit down and chop it out of there. And it's the worse the lie is, the more of a chop out it's going to be. That's just the story. That's just the story. So, the other consideration that I see, and this is something that I noticed over time, is there was this notion that as the ball was getting into that B lie and C lie, the ball's sitting down a little bit more in the rough, but I could still hit it, that I should just take a hybrid because hybrids make it come out better.
Yes. I know exactly where you're going here.
And
I agree.
Yeah. So one of the things that is interesting about a hybrid design is that the face is really shallow, right? So when you're trying to control arc height, which is a struggle out of the rough, right, with the ball sitting in there, it's really easy to hit it right off the top of your hybrid and send it like straight up in the air, and it goes nowhere. Like it goes nowhere, and you get a big mark on the top of your hybrid. Like it's
a fun time.
The iron face is a lot deeper, right? So you have more vertical component to an iron face to be able to catch that ball and hit it out. So I would say I would try to revert to 7, 8, 9 rather than a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Again, some people hit hybrids really great out there. That's fine. But as you're coming in with that shallower attack angle because you're hitting a longer club, um, A, you're more likely to just hit more grass before the ball. And then B,
Yeah.
with the shallower face, I think it's easier to hit it on the top of the club. And then you get
Yeah.
that what's called vertical gear effect, where it adds a bunch of loft and impact. It just doesn't go anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my opinion is you just want to, play a club out of there that you know you can get out of there, right? So
Yeah.
level one consideration is like practice it, try to figure out if you can chop down on it with a with a shorter club and get it and play more directly to the fairway. As you become level 2 player, you're probably reading the lie a little bit better and matching it to your skill and trying to understand if you can hit it high enough and control it better into those considerations you had with Loft. As you get to be a better player, we're talking level 3 is like a scratch golfer. Now you're reading lies and trying to, is this a flyer? Is this it? Is it going to take long? Is this into grain? Is this down grain? Why is Bermuda grass different than fescue grass, different than bluegrass, different than kikuyu grass or whatever? Like all those different considerations as you're trying to predict the ball coming out of it. But the truth is you can't really predict it very well, right? So you're just making the best educated guess playing on. So your best golfers, those scratch golfers and better, is there any unique considerations you're giving them, Robbie, kind of outside of what you've already discussed?
Yeah. So this is where level 2 and level 3 into level 4, you need to understand how your dispersion gets bigger out of the rough and how much. So again, for my golfers who are targeting using fingers, you're going to want to figure out like, hey, for me in these particular shots, how much am I widening out that zone, right? Because then that's going to change your target, right? Because our number one deal here is like, hey, nothing within this zone. And again, it's not 0% of our shots, right? But understand like, hey, this is, in the neighborhood of, 75, 80-ish% of shots are going to be in this zone, assuming I'm swinging and playing freely. So for this lie, how big does that need to be? And then where do I need to put this so that 0 of my, inside my dispersion are touching a penalty area, would be number 1. And then getting as much of that on the green as I can, number 2. And then if I have margin on either side, then I can slide it closer to the flag, number 3. So it's just like wind. It's like headwind. It's going to increase your dispersion, just like rough. It's just another consideration that you need to make in your targeting. You're just going to be a little more conservative in your target out of the rough in general.
I would say right to left dispersion and short to long dispersion, right? It's really unpredictable on the carry distance.
For sure.
I guess if you're...
And then
Go ahead.
And then as a level 3 golfer, especially if you're in the rough, but you, let's say, have less than a 6 iron in or so, you're going to be also reading, okay, based off this lie, when the ball hits the green, how is it going to respond off of that, right? And that's going to get baked into your carry number that you're intending to hit.
Yeah, so defining what a flyer lie is, some people listening to this probably don't know what a flyer lie is, although they probably have had one. It just means that grass gets between the club and the face. You make pretty good contact with it, but the grass gets between the club and the face and the ball basically doesn't spin as much. So with less spin, it just rockets off the club face and it'll carry a long way typically. And it will also roll a long way when it does finally hit planet Earth, which sometimes can be way too long. So trying to predict a flyer lie is really difficult, I think. Because sometimes it comes out soft, sometimes it comes out fast. Sure. Then if you have wind to consider, that's a really big consideration. But it kind of goes back to the iron loft fitting conversation too, because if I'm fitting, you just made this point a little while ago, but they put it in the context of flyer lies or, non-flyer lies. If I'm getting a 7 iron that I'm just someone who launches the ball low, and I tend to land it at 38 degrees land angle, right, with 4,000 or 4,200 spin on a 7 iron. When I go in the rough and that spin goes down, I mean, that is a impossible ball to control, right? 100%. So we're fitting them on these optimal launch conditions from a mat or from a fairway lie, right? But you have
Yeah,
to
exactly.
realize when you put that in the context of playing the golf course, there is some struggles out there when you're talking about the spin going down even more from unoptimal spin. So
Yep.
that just puts it another one of those revolutionary things with the loft fitting. And again, I could always, so someone's listening to this being like, Eric, you could always change the lofts. That is 100% true. But it was always a guess, right? Like I would always have to guess like, oh, is this going to help the person or
It's
not?
probably like a degree weaker or 2 degrees. Now you're like,
No,
yes,
it's
you
perfect. I'm
are
seeing the
2 degrees.
numbers on
Yeah,
TrackMan.
yeah,
I know it's working
for
out.
sure.
So I think that getting your irons fit properly is such a big deal. And we
Mhm.
think about it from good condition, but man, when it gets to be from not great conditions, it's really, really helpful to have irons that really fit you well and can really work from all condition. So level 3 consideration there. I think reading the lie is huge. To your point, like
Yeah,
understanding the dispersion, because
that's most of it, to be
yeah,
honest. Obviously, there's always skill stuff present, but it's not their ability to produce the skill, right? They're producing the skill within reason, but it's their what they intended wasn't matching what was needed, right? So it's yeah, for level 3 and level 4 golfers, I almost always start with prediction, all right? Because it's most of the time they think it's their swing or they think it's their skill, and in reality, it's just their prediction of what they're trying to do.
awesome. So I think that was a pretty comprehensive discussion of,
Yeah,
and that
agreed.
was,
I think we hit
we
on it.
talked about that mainly from a full swing discussion. We didn't get into it as much on the short game, and I think that's okay.
But it's pretty, yeah, no, it's just, it's, the rules are the same. A, B, C, D, it's changing the launch, it's changing the ball speed, it's changing the spin. Um, and then it's your ability to read what's going to happen and create a choice of loft, speed, right, and match your skill, right, to that.
Yeah. I think we covered in some of our short game episodes playing from the rough around the green. So you could
Mm-hmm.
probably go back and check out some of those episodes or review some of those episodes. But
Yeah, should probably, hopefully hear a lot of the same stuff,
yeah,
but it's good.
maybe we've changed our mind, but I don't think so. Um, we have to trust the science, Robbie. So we're trusting the science
Yeah,
on this.
no, we're just stuck in our ways.
Yeah,
Man.
stuck in our ways. So yeah, thank you for that discussion. I thought that was good. So
Yeah, agreed.
I'll check in with my friend, see if she learned something from that. So lessons from the lesson tee. I think this is kind of turning into
what you've been seeing.
yes, this is kind of turning into one of my more favorite parts of the podcast because I think people can sort of
I've actually gotten some good feedback on it.
yeah,
Too.
I think people can see themselves in these stories a bit.
Yeah.
Talking about golf performance from just the standpoint of a textbook, like if you do this, then all these if then discussions, like if your ball's in a C line, then play like that's but that's okay. Like that's how we learn and that's how we teach.
Mm-hmm.
But then like understanding an individual person and their needs and what their hopes and goals are, and then how we've helped those people develop or help them learn how to develop. I think people can see themselves in those stories. And so you said you had one you wanted to discuss today, which I don't know anything about, so I'm excited to hear about it.
No, it's funny when you start teaching, you have just random weeks where you see like similar stuff, multiple days of that week. And this week was really funny. So almost every lesson that I teach, I don't shy away from advertising it. You're going to get an understanding of your rhythm, right? What does swinging freely mean to you? You're going to get an understanding of training skill. You're going to get an understanding of strategy, which is your decision making and your shot process. What is relevant to you to get better, right? So that's what we do. That's what we talk about on a podcast every day. Throughout the week, when I was doing skill training, and I don't know if it was how I was presenting it, or if it was just the random luck of the draw, I had 3 separate people in the same week completely confuse face to path and horizontal impact spot on the face, heel to toe. So I remember sending you this video or this text. I said, "Hey, don't let me forget. This is what I wanted to talk about on the podcast." And for this golfer, every single time we would try to do heel or toe strikes. So again, I was trying my best to be very clear that, hey, all we're changing here is the location of your low point, basically the bottom of your swing in space. All right. For a toe strike, the bottom of the swing is closer to you, closer to your feet. For a heel strike, the bottom of the swing is further forward, away from your feet. And every single time when he would try to give it a heel strike, he would open the face. And a toe strike, he would close the face. And I thought, that's pretty interesting. And so I obviously brought it to his attention. And then we said, hey, you're not changing the face, you're just changing. Then we went on about it. And it happened again. It's like literally like within the week, same thing. No, we're not changing face. And then it happened again. And they did not all do the same thing. So I had one who was closing the face more for heel strikes and opening the face more for toe strikes. So it wasn't that. But I think oftentimes golfers, when they hit it right or left, they might think that, it was just because I hit it on the heel or the toe, right? In reality, no, it's just where the face was pointed, and vice versa, right? If they feel a heel strike or a toe strike, they're perceiving it as the face being open or closed. No, it's just where the swing was in space. So it was a very, very bizarre week, but just so everyone knows, the impact spot on the face, so where the ball is touching on the face, is completely different, separate than where the face is pointed when it hits the ball. And I know, if you've listened to this podcast before, this should be very much a review for you. This is but do not assume this is not like Captain Obvious stuff from a feel perspective as you're swinging a golf club and you're experiencing impact perspective, especially if you're a little bit more limited in your experience. This is not Captain Obvious stuff. People need to have that awareness of hey, there is a difference in where the ball hits on the face, or there can be a difference in where the ball is hitting on the face versus where the ball is going because of where the face is pointed at impact. So it was very interesting. I think it was just a good reminder that we needed to take our time with our students, and we need to make sure that their perceptions and their concepts of what we are talking about in terms of skill is very, very, very clear, because I do it all day and I sometimes get in the habit of just skimming and kind of running through it. And that week really taught me to just slow down, take a deep breath, and just, we don't have to get through every single skill in one lesson. Essentially, I've gotten to the point now to where it's all right, if this person just really needs a better understanding of this one particular aspect of arc location, whether it be a height or arc location forward to back, then we just don't even get past that. We just do that, right? And it's been good. So that was my main lesson.
Well, I think it's good to point out that not every person that plays golf, and I think there's plenty of people probably listening to this, and I would put myself in this as a golfer for a long time when I was learning to play this game, is that I really had no idea what made the ball go where it went. I had no idea. I would swing and hope it would go straight, and I would try to swing better, and I would try to,
Yeah.
And this, I'm talking about 30 years ago when there was no TrackMan and there was no, there was no understanding from a science perspective, and I was trying to learn golf. I didn't really know. And this is what when you're going through development, it's about acquiring skill. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I just watched, I wouldn't say a lot of the US Open tennis. I watched some of it, and I just can't. I play a little bit of racket sports. My daughter plays tennis, plays some pickleball. I like tennis. The amount of skill that those tennis players have is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, right? So it's easy to see. I think it plays out in tennis. You can see that skill, the way they control the ball, right? Skill in golf is about control, right? So what are you controlling? You're controlling where the ball's hitting on the face, right? You're controlling where the face is pointed. But those are separate, right? To your point. And they both have influence on where the ball goes. And so I think that try to sort out in your mind as a golfer, why is my ball going where it's going and why is it not going where I hope it to go? Why am I not controlling it very well? And that's to your point about it. Do I have the right perception of what's going on? And this is where coaching comes in because sometimes we just
Yeah.
don't know. And sometimes I don't know about my own swing. I've got to kind of sort through it a little bit.
Oh my gosh. And this is every week I get golfers who are perceiving they're hitting the heel and they're actually hitting the toe. I have golfers who are perceiving that the ball's going left because their hips, and in reality, it's the face being closed, right? So this is an every week thing, yeah, for sure.
So we want to correlate the proper things to the proper outcomes. And so, yeah, to your point, your hips are not causing the ball to go right or left. The club face is causing the ball to go right or left. And so you got to sort that through. So yeah, I think that's really good. I mean, I didn't come into this one tonight with a specific story from the recent time. It's been a fun season of teaching. I've taught probably more this year than ever because I've played less golf, but I'm just kind of cranking them out these days. And it's been fun. It's been fun seeing some newer golfers really learning to play and acquiring skill, right? And then practicing in a way where they can adjust on their own. I had a listener who I work with on his game. He's a member, but he likes to listen to the show. And he was telling me today, he's like, I'm able to understand on the course when things go sideways, how to change it because you've helped me learn what the skills are. And he's a 16 handicap. He's like, I don't have 100% control of what I'm doing all the time, but I can make adjustments when I see issues mid-round. And so I think from a teaching perspective, currently, I'm trying to really instill in the player, almost teaching from skill backwards and then trying to get them to have the swing react to how they want the ball to fly, right? So
that's yes, absolutely. Like when it comes to geometry, right? So 3 aspects of the swing: energy, time, geometry. Energy, really just an amount of amount of momentum, amount of work, and it also comprises of how you're doing it, how you're putting the energy in, right? Time, really the amount of time in the pattern of time, right? Which we call rhythm. And then there's geometry, right? Which is the positions, right? The locations in space where the club is swinging through. I currently believe that the shot creates the geometry. Whatever shot you're trying to hit, right? The geometry is subordinate to that shot. What does not change is the relative to the shot, how you're putting energy into it, right? And the pattern of that energy, as well as the time aspects are going to, again, the general rhythm is going to stay really, really consistent, even though the amount of energy might change, the time of the swing might change a little bit, but the rhythm of the swing is going to be extremely consistent, ideally.
So I've been working with a level 3 player, and this goes right to the point you just made, who's trying to be a level 4 player. So he's working towards trying to play as a tour player. And he's coming off injury. He came to see me, and I hadn't ever worked with him. And I'm watching his control the ball first and trying to make a judgment upon that to help him the best I can. And realizing he's not controlling the ball. He knows this, by the way. He knows he's not controlling the ball the way he wants to. And not good enough to be a tour player. And then in the moment, and so he needs some change to his swing. This is a swing change, right? It wasn't a skill change. This was a swing change. Because what he was doing from the geometry wasn't going to produce the dispersion pattern, the control that he needed. And so I'm looking at different ways, right? Like a little bit of hand path, what his lower body's doing relative to his upper body, how it's rotating through the swing. There's all kinds of stuff going on, and we kind of work back and forth on stuff. And I finally said, "Can you hit a draw for me?" Okay. So I turned his focus to the shot, right? And all of a sudden, the hand path changed. Okay. The body changed. The left knee started working differently. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, he said, freedom. I'm freed up, right? He's playing good, by the way. So it just to the point you made, we changed his focus onto the shot, and then his swing, or what you call the geometry, it just changed, right? Without him thinking too much about it. So absolutely can happen. But again, it's really hard to do that on your own. I mean, I think you need a little guidance on that, knowing what to do, when to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, great story, Rob. That was really good. I think that's things that hopefully the listener can latch onto a little bit, learn from.
Yeah.
And so if you're practicing, listener, practice just like Robbie always says. Can you hit it on the toe? Can you hit it on the heel? Can you move the low point around a little bit? Can you practice with the face open? Can you practice with the face closed? Can you hit it in the middle of the face with the face open, with the face closed to change the ball flight? That type of skill training will do you an amazing amount of goodwill in the long run, where you can really start to adapt and make the ball do what you would like it to do. And on that front, Rob Fales, anything else you'd like to add on the back end of today's episode, which I'm so glad we got recorded, and I hope my computer worked so that we don't, lose it.
No, I think we hit on it.
So cool. So Robbie and I are working on a project for our Substack, which is going to be really, I think, really good and ongoing. So we're going to start populating the Substack with more and more content as we go. And one big project, which I don't want to mention yet because we haven't recorded the first episode, but I want to tease it a little bit, and then we'll record an episode on it. We'll go from there. But let's just say it's going to be it's going to be a case study on somebody creating a long-term ongoing plan for playing best golf they can. And it's going to hit from every angle. We're talking lifestyle, nutrition, sleep, recovery, exercise, equipment, strategy, training, organization of life and time and family, all these things that all of us really, really need to learn from. So that'll be on the Substack coming. So it's not out yet, but we're going to record the first episode soon. Loading. So that'll be really, really good. So you want to check that out. We'll let you know when it's live on there. You'll see. If you don't follow us on the Substack, you should. There's a free version, which we do put some stuff. I put a newsletter out or some videos, and then there's the behind the paywall stuff, which this case study will be. But if you just follow us on the other part of it, you'll get some notifications on stuff, and you can decide if you want to support the show in that way. But we are just glad that you tune in, to be quite honest. We're glad you're here. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Golf Intervention Podcast. We are now celebrating 2 years of doing this. This is episode 51. So we're about
that's crazy.
2 episodes a month, which for us feels pretty good. I'd like to put more out, but we just, lifes and we run into stuff. So yeah. So thanks, Rob Fales. It's been fun for me. We're going to keep going.
Fun times.
If you have any questions for us, you can always hit us up on social media. I've put my swing on social media recently. So if you're interested on how Eric Layton swings the club, I've been doing some little swing stuff on there just for fun. And so I'm Eric Layton PGA, at Eric Layton PGA on Instagram if you want to check it out and see what I've got going on with my swing. I'm unafraid to share it. It's not too bad. It can improve, but it's not too bad right now. So check that out there, and you can always send us a DM or a message on there asking us some questions that you'd like us to cover on the show, because we're always looking for some good ideas. So that's all I got for this evening. Rob Fales, thank you again for being on. It's always a pleasure. I hope you have a great week out there in Charlottesville. I'll actually be in Charlottesville tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, Thursday.
What?
Yeah, I got to drop some stuff off to my son, who is a wahoo, as they say.
Well, come on by.
Maybe I will. It'll be late in the evening, so you'll probably be home by then. But
oh yeah, we got our second day of our golf school. So sorry, I don't have time for you,
man. It's an immersive experience at golf school.
It is.
Have fun with the golf school. All right, boss.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Have a great night.
All right. Bye-bye.